What did I miss?
Welcome, everybody. You missed us talking about politics, which we have edited out at the beginning of this broadcast. My name is Judy Mark. Welcome to SDP Connect. No politics here except for the politics of self-determination.
Yay!
Definitely have some politics for sure. So welcome, everybody. So let me tell you how this is all going to work. First, we have Spanish interpretation offered in a back line. I want to talk to Lorna about this in a moment because I want us, the reason we've always used a back line is because when we first started using the Zoom system, people couldn't understand it. I feel we're now 6 months later and people who use interpretation really are understanding the Zoom system. So I'm wondering, Lorna, if you have people on your Spanish line, first of all, announce how to get on, and if you have them on it, if you could ask them whether they'd be willing next week to try using the interpretation through the Zoom system.
Hello. First of all, there's no Spanish speakers on the line right now.
Oh, okay.
Para las personas que hablan español, pueden llamar al 551-241-6310 para escuchar la interpretación simultánea al español. De nuevo, 551-241-6310. No se necesita código de acceso. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So, Lorna, when there is somebody on the line, please ask them if they're okay for the future so that we don't have to sit and worry about these two separate lines. All right, everybody, welcome. So the way that you guys are going to be able to talk today, you peeps, are going to be able to talk today is by raising your hand. For those of you who have not joined us before, you click on participants at the bottom of your screen, and then you can see your name, and underneath your name and the names of the participants, you can click your hand. Tammy Polly has given an example of that. You can see that she has a little hand raised next to her name if you click on participants. If you do not know how to accomplish that, you can also put something in the chat and we'll try to find you there. The reason why you can't physically raise your hand is because I have a giant new screen that I'm looking at to reduce my intense amounts of headaches I've been getting from looking at Zoom. And even with my giant screen, I still don't see all of you. So you can't be waving at me. I will not actually see you to recognize you. So using the raise hands feature is the way to go. And we're going to be doing a lot of conversation today because we are not having a presenter. We are really going to double down and try to figure out how to get as many people into the self-determination program as possible. So we're calling this an open forum. And we are basically, for those of you who are, maybe I'll separate it out. For those of you who are not yet moved into the self-determination program, please present to us what questions, barriers you're facing, and we will try to hold your hand and work it through with you. That's very important to us. Right now, I think DDS said there's about 320 out of the 2,500 people who've gotten in, and there's actually more than 2,500 because they over-selected. So I would guess that they have selected close to 3,000, if not more, people to go in. So we're at less than 10%. I would guess over 3,000. So we are at less than 10%. So our goal is to get as many people as possible to just move into the self-determination program. If you're having problems, we will try to help you fix those problems. So the first group we're going to do is to talk about those of you who have not yet gotten in and how we are helping you. And then the second group are questions and comments are people who've already gone into the self-determination program and what kinds of barriers you're facing. So for the first half, the other thing I'm going to mention is that we are stopping 5 to 10 minutes early because there is a vice presidential debate that begins at 6. I'm only slightly obsessed. I know that there are several on this call, like Nina, who will not be watching it. In fact, she would rather watch a football game or some sort of professional sporting event than watch the debate because it will make her sad. So, but I, on the other hand, obsess on them. And I actually am playing debate bingo. If anybody wants to play debate bingo with me, just let me know and I'll get you where you check off when somebody says look, or somebody says China virus, or somebody says hoax, you get to check it. My daughter won for the presidential debate. So, all right, so we're gonna end by 10 to 6. So let me start with asking if any of you have not, so you can be part of the program. So you're not somebody who's on the wait list, but you can be part of the program and you have not yet moved in. Please let us know by raising your hand what it is we can help you with to move you into the program and to help you move forward. Wow. Is everybody in the program already or on the wait list of the program? Oh, yay. Miriam. Go, Miriam.
Oh, okay, hold on. Hi. We were selected 2 years ago.
Your background is so completely awesome.
Oh, I didn't even know I had it on. I'm in my bed, so this is better than my bed. Anyway, Linus was chosen 2 years ago. He was chosen with the very first people. Tammy is our independent facilitator, and we are still not in. But Tammy is working on it. I have a really good service coordinator, but I think the holdup right now is those PA hours, the COVID hours. We were this close to signing the budget, and then they said they wanted to wait for the DDS directive on the COVID hours. So that's, I think, our holdup.
Can I add a little bit more background to that?
Please.
They showed her a budget and she approved it, and then they took it back. This is North Los Angeles. They took.
Yeah, I was wondering what regional center. Okay, so she approved it in signature or approved it in concept?
Concept, and then they showed it to her before they even had it approved by their people, and then they came back, and 2 months later.
I signed it. I think I signed it actually. I physically signed it and sent it back actually.
Yeah.
Okay, that is so outrageous. COVID, somebody's asking what COVID hours. Would you want to explain that, Tammy, or you want me to explain it?
Okay.
Go ahead. Wait.
Okay, they're the hours that families are getting during COVID. If you needed extra respite or hours during COVID, they call those COVID hours. Okay, but the way North Los Angeles is doing it, they are only authorizing the hours through the end of the year. So your budget is only going to show respite hours for the rest of the year and not for the full 12-month period, because the directive for the second part or the other part next year hasn't come out. Right. So your budgets are drastically smaller because they're not even reflecting the hours. Even if you were using regular hours, they're not putting them in. They're only putting in respite hours until December 31st.
So I just want to let you know that you should consider yourself lucky, because at some regional centers, they're not even putting it for 1 minute. So at Westside, at my regional center, they're not including COVID hours at all. So COVID hours are those extra, did you define what that was? COVID hours are those hours that you're getting because maybe your day program shut down or school is shut down, and DDS allowed for additional hours to support families. They also allowed for participant-directed services. And I have been asking for the data for 6 months, maybe 3 months from DDS to see what the usage is of COVID hours and of participant-directed services, and they have yet to give it to me. And I realize the reason they're not giving it to me, and this is being recorded and I have no problems them hearing this, is that the reason they aren't giving it to me is because these services are not being used. They're not being used by very many people. And so it is going to be an embarrassment to them to have the governor having issued these directives and the regional center is actually not approving them. So that's really a problem. So here is my suggestion, because you need to go in, like we can't have everybody just waiting around, because self-determination is not going to move forward if people don't go in. You need to understand that. They just won't. If 350 people are in next year, they're going to be like, obviously nobody wants it. There's no demand for self-determination. So here is my suggestion. So the COVID hours have been approved until December, correct? The end of December? Is that correct, Tammy or Miriam?
Yeah, but the problem is that they're approved, but they're not even being used because she can't find workers that she wants in the house with the family. That's a problem. She's not, almost all my families have these extra hours they're given, but they can't use them.
Well, I am using some of the hours.
Okay.
Because my daughter is providing them.
Oh,
Good, perfect.
But I don't know. I haven't seen a budget with the COVID hours. The budget I signed was without the COVID hours.
Oh, so they're not even, you don't even have, okay, so here's what I would do. So when was the last communication with the regional center?
it's weekly.
Today, I actually emailed my coordinator today.
Okay, and what did you say?
Well, I got a call from the PA and respite agency, and they said that the PA hours authorization ended September 30th, and I didn't know that. So I emailed my coordinator, and he said, no, I have given approval in September, and the approval is until the end of December. So there was a mix-up. So the hours are approved through the agency till the end of December. And then I asked him, and what about the self-determination? And he said, I'm sorry, it's out of my hands. It's about the respite, and he would talk to his supervisor, I think tomorrow.
Okay.
4 families in this situation at North Los Angeles. 4.
Okay. So this is where you can be polite, where you can be certainly, very kind. And what you can do is, so this is what you should do, is you should resend the email and say, I would like to have a response from this by Friday, or you give them a date, whatever date you want. I need to have a response of what my budget is. Give them 48 hours. I mean, they've been sitting on this for months, 2 years. What's wrong? Oh, I'm leading a webinar, but that's okay. My husband needs to come into my office, and he's crawling on the floor. He doesn't get seen. It's okay. You can't be seen. It's fine. So I would give them a deadline by which the budget has to come back to you, and say, I'm assuming if the budget doesn't come back to us by this time that you are denying him any additional any additional dollars. Sorry, this is very distracting. He's gone. Deny, that you're denying us any additional funding from, because you have anything in writing from them?
We've been through to DDS, Tim Travis, SCDD. Everybody knows about the situation.
But they know about the COVID stuff, and they're continuing to not.
No, they know about how people are being blocked.
Right.
They know that.
They know that. They've known this for 2 months. Okay. This is intentionally denying people access to self-determination. So we need to start filing complaints about this. And so just sitting and letting regional centers and DDS control us is the opposite of what self-determination is supposed to be. So what I want you all to do who are facing this COVID hours problem is that I want you to basically say, I would like to have the budget, the final budget that you're providing me by Friday, give it, or by Monday, whatever date it is. And don't let them push that back. Just say, give me whatever you're going to give me. And then I want you to go into self-determination and on the same day, file for a fair hearing. You have to do both. If we could get 100 500 people to file for fair hearing in the next month, it will overwhelm the fair hearing process. It will overwhelm regional centers, and it will finally, DDS will pay attention. They'll be like, oh, wow. Do you know that in the 20 years of the pilot project, remember, we're not in a pilot, we're in a phase in right now. But in the 20 years where 5 regional centers were part of a pilot, do you know how many fair hearings they had? One in 20 years, one. So somebody's got to say something's wrong if like 500 people file for fair hearing. It's very easy to file for fair hearing, very easy. What is very hard is actually to sit in a fair hearing. Fair hearings are very complicated. Please go back and look at the interchange.org, the interchange, not just interchange, the interchange.org, and please look at our SDP Connect about it from a couple of weeks ago, where we talked about fair hearing. It's not an easy process to be in fair hearing, for sure. But if 500 people file for fair hearing, I can promise you the Office of Administrative Hearings, they're going to notice it. They're going to notice it. So, in fact, thank you, Ed. Ed is putting in the chat. First of all, the interchange, where you can find where Katie Hornberger from DRC explained how to go through fair hearing. And number 2, how to file part of the process on DDS website. And third, how to actually apply for fair hearing. It's just a simple process, okay? So that is my suggestion. But you want to give them one last chance and say, and really, it's not a threat because it's your right to have fair hearing, but just basically say, we've been waiting too long. We need to go into self-determination. Here, give me your final offer, like you're negotiating on buying a house or something. Give me your final offer and thank you. And that's it. And I need it by X date. And if they don't give it to you by X date, you can file for fair hearing, because a no response is the same thing as a denial. So they can't just sit and say, we're working on it, we don't have an answer. Like, honestly, if it's your very first time asking them for to work with you on a budget, and they say we need a couple weeks, that is completely reasonable. But you've been in for over 2 years. It was October 1st, 2018 when your child got selected. So I'm sorry, but okay, so that is what, and for whatever anybody's going to say, if there's a disagreement, please just file for fair hearing. So Christina, did you want to add to this discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to, yesterday I had a meeting with Regional Center. My son is not an SDP. He's on the waiting list. However, they very easily gave me the personal assistance hours for the hours that he's not in school. I had a meeting a few weeks ago, told a bunch of parents at his school about this. None of them were aware of this directive 6 months after it was issued. But they also went to their regional center coordinators, and most of them got hours right away. So why is it that it's easy for people who have IPPs to get these hours? And they're not saying that, oh, you can only have them for a certain period of time. It's based on what the need is. And so there is something, and I don't know the exact, you would know this, but within the self-determination program, there's a change in circumstance, right? So somebody who graduates the school district, they made, their budget didn't include a day program. Now, whatever, moving forward, it needs to include more money to accommodate for that need for the program. Is there the language in the self-determination program? What does it say in terms of a change of circumstance, which is occurring right now? I don't know how are they justifying that it can only be through December. I know the directive is only through December, but in the budget, and if that's the case, then they should. Right now, the need is you need these hours. In 6 months, then, if you don't need the hours, then they can come back and say, okay, we need to change the budget. Why is it that the consumer and the family have to, prove to them, and then we have to fight because, the DDS, they're not accommodating, or regional centers are not, are setting time limits for us. They should be the ones having to say, okay, maybe you don't need this anymore in the budget. And as everybody really knows, I don't think this is going to be up It's not going to be up in December. So realistically, it's going to be probably 9 months at least before we have an opportunity to not need the extra personal assistance hours, whether we're in self-determination or not. But it really makes me upset when I see people in the program struggling for things that people not in the program are getting. It's not right.
Yeah, so there is a change in circumstances, of which COVID is definitely a change in circumstance. It's certainly not what, when we wrote the law, we thought would be a change in circumstance, but it is what it is today. And so the thing is that I believe that the reason why regional centers are not approving these quote unquote COVID hours, it's a terrible term, but these extra hours because of the statewide emergency, is because the DDS is only approving these hours for a short period of time. So they're approving them maybe on a 1 month or a 2 month or a 3 month basis. And so what regional centers are saying is in the SDP, they're approving an annual budget. And so since this is only approved, these COVID hours are only approved until, for a month at a time, because they're constantly regional centers are doing so much paperwork to reauthorize these COVID hours that even in the traditional system, it's a nightmare. It would add to it in the self-determination program. So what we're trying to get DDS to do is to say, yeah, we support, we approve regional centers to authorize these hours for X number of months, and then to reconvene and look at the budget again. So my feeling is like what you have at North LA, that the extra hours have been approved till December 31st, to me is fine, because you're going to know by the end of November whether DDS has authorized an additional amount of hours into next year. You're going to know that, okay? So Sunny wanted to comment.
Thank you. I just had a question. So if someone is receiving COVID hours ongoing currently, and they do what you're saying, can they get and they appeal or they file for a fair hearing, can they get the, I forget the term, but can they get the, like, you can't stop services that are ongoing during an appeal?
Yeah, so what you're gonna do is, yes, I know it's called stay put in the IEP process, and it has some other weird term in the fair hearing process. So what you're doing is you're agreeing to your budget for the certain amount of services that you're getting, and then you're filing for fair hearing to add additional services. So let's apply it to the traditional system, right? Let's say you have approved, you're an adult, and you have approved a day program and some independent living services hours, but you have a disagreement with the regional center over some additional hours related to, let's say, SLS. Let's say you want to move into a home and they're like, no, we're not going to give you SLS hours. Whatever that additional service is. If you file for fair hearing, you're not losing your day program and your ILS hours. You're still maintaining that. And as you move, and then you can have the additional service added to your program. It's the same exact thing in the self-determination program where so let's say you've agreed to a set of services in the traditional system that total $10,000, and you have a disagreement for another $5,000. You've agreed to the $10,000, that is what you will be spending at that time, and then you go to fair hearing to get that additional $5,000 added in, which is, remember, that $5,000 is not a dollar amount to the judges. The judges who rule on this are not ruling on a dollar amount, they're ruling on a service that you believe you should be receiving. So that's how come you're not going to lose anything you have right now, because the budget will be based on a set of services that you're getting. And then you are appealing for an additional service or two that will ultimately increase your budget.
But I think I got that. But what I think people are worried about is if they're using the COVID hours right now and they are not included in the budget, then it is like they're losing a service.
Yeah, and that's how come we've been asking for months and months for DDS to rule on this, and the only way we're going to change it, because I honestly talked to them today about it. Once again, I talked to DDS about it today, and they had no answers for me. So I really think that the only way we're going to win on this is if everybody files for fair hearing. Remember that fair hearing costs regional centers money. It's not like fair hearing is like a freebie. It costs us time, but it doesn't cost them time. It costs regional centers money. It costs the state of California money because the judges have to appear at these hearings. And it costs DDS money because DDS, guess who pays ALJ? DDS. The administrative law judges are paid for by DDS, by our taxpayer dollars. So if 500 people are filing this, somebody's going to freaking notice. Honestly, I hate to get to this point, but DDS is not doing their job. This is what, lawyers are always talking about. Lawyers don't want to file lawsuits. That is not their first goal. They would much rather negotiate their way out of anything than file a lawsuit. But we are now up against a wall, and we can't. And you know what? I bet regional center, certainly my regional center would like a lawsuit on this so that they can say, yep, the judge says we have to do this, so we're doing this. So, I want to empower you as families, as individuals, to go ahead and file for fair hearing. We're hoping that you don't actually have to show up on a certain day, because I know it can be intimidating. Although I have offered to help a couple people to show up at their fair hearing and help them, and they even have said no because it is so intimidating to them, which is why we call it the unfair hearing process. But speaking of regional centers, Adrian from Lanterman Regional Center, who is one of our frequent flyers on the SDP Connect, we
Hi
love
there.
you, Adrian. So go ahead, tell us what you're hearing.
I wanted to share our experience at our center, what we're doing in regards to these quote unquote COVID hours. We were funding for those outside, for our self-determination clients. We were funding for those hours outside of self-determination, but our accounting team was coming up with a lot of problems of having 2 delivery systems open. So what we decided to do internally is that we're just going to amend our clients' budgets, include these hours. And we just recently started doing it because we were seeing that problem with accounting. But what we did is we included the next 3 months up until December. We included this SOE hours in participants' self-determination budget, with the understanding that it was only kind of a one-time thing. And also, given the current situation, if this continues, then we would reconvene and consider putting in more hours for SOE in their budgets.
Right.
Why hasn't DDS given us a ruling on the issue on the COVID hour? Why hasn't DDS given this ruling?
I am not sure. I am not DDS. I am just trying to make sure that at least our participants are getting taken care of.
Yeah, I can tell you that it's been brought up for months and months and months by independent facilitators, by myself, by community-based organizations who know that COVID's not going away anytime soon, and these hours should be part of somebody's budget at least part of the time, and then reconvene after that. So this has been sort of the biggest issue that a lot of people are talking about, particularly those parents of younger children where they have so few hours anyway. And it's not like, you go into the self-determination program and COVID is cured for you. It's not like you only have risks of COVID and the schools are shut down if you're in the traditional system. So to me, it is patently unfair. I can tell you that my local advisory committee at Westside, in fact, I haven't done anything about this. I have to do this. We passed a resolution at our regional center that we are sending up to DDS, and we passed it last week to say that we implore DDS to include these hours in an individual's budget. Cindy, what are you want to comment on this?
I just have a quick question. Well, actually two, because talking about the fair hearings, I'm gonna go for a fair hearing for my son for integrated integration in the community, but I don't know if it should be done outside before I do the transition or after I do the transition. I don't know which will be easier. I know none of them it will be easier, but I was wondering maybe being in self-determination, if I fight it, it will have more openings for that.
So wait, so explain to me what the service is, because you can't get, I mean, is it an evaluation for the service or is it actually the service?
No, actually, integration in the community is for kids. There's this company called SIG, which any kids over 12-year-old, they teach him to be included in the community, like to teach time, do a lot of things. But
right, but that's not in self-determination, that's in the traditional system. You don't have to use them.
Yeah, that's why. So I'm ready to do the transition. So they denied the survey because they say that ABA and the school should do that. And I told them, well, ABA already sent me a letter and saying they don't do that because he has behaviors and they're focusing right now on that. But since I'm gonna do the transition, I'm like, I don't know, both sides are hard to find a fair hearing. I just don't know which way I will have more chances in self-determination.
No, they're the same thing, honey. The fair hearing is the same regardless of whether you're in self-determination or in the traditional system. Because remember that your budget has to be based on the services you would receive in the traditional system. So when a judge is going to rule on something, they're not going to be ruling on the amount of money that should be in your budget. They're going to be ruling on whether you should be receiving a service or not.
I know, because it was a service. That's why I say, okay,
Right.
he needs a service.
So go in, so do what I was just recommending, which is to ask for a final budget from your regional center, sign the budget, and on the same day file for fair hearing to get that additional service.
Okay, because the other question is, I already have requested the regional center, the budget for my daughter, because I already got another service. So I told them, okay, now can you prorate the old budget with the new budget so we can go from there? So they're like, oh yeah, but we have COVID hours again. And I'm like, well, it needed to be included because she's gonna be getting those hours right now.
Right. So go ahead, and everybody who's not in self-determination, go into it. Go into self-determination. And then the parts that you disagree on, you should be filing for fair hearing. You can have multiple issues. So that your fair hearing could be both about the denial of that particular community integration service and then the denial of COVID hours. But you want to start I would say the only people that I would say don't go into self-determination without filing for fair hearing are the people with such small, tiny little budgets that you can't even afford to be in self-determination. Well, so there are some people who have a budget of 0. Or
yeah,
let's say
that will be my son. That's what I asked for, integration in the community.
So what's the total budget that they offered him? $0?
No, it's only 40 hours of respite. That's it.
So it's 40 hours of respite a month.
But I told them, I don't care if it's 20, I'm still going into self-determination.
Yeah. So. Okay. But there are some people who have $0, so they can't go into self-determination.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You can't go into, because you can't even afford an FMS at that point.
Wow. Yeah. So what I did, I transferred the respite into behavioral respite, so it will upload the budget.
Okay.
So that I wanted already. So now my next procedure, it was to do the fair hearing for the integration in the community.
Right.
So that's why, but I really wanted to do the transition this month, but since I had the fair hearing, I already, I don't have a date yet, but since I have the fair hearing, I don't know if it's a good idea to do it prior or after the transition. or it doesn't matter?
I would say, you know, file for fair hearing tomorrow. I mean, you've already gotten a denial from them on that service, right?
Yeah, I already have
Okay, so
this.
you can file for fair hearing tomorrow on that.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then we could, and then you could, while you're waiting, because it's going to be a process, while you're waiting, you could go in with just the 40 hours you have of respite.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. And then for my daughter, when they send me the budget, the official budget, I have to make sure it's prorated for one whole year, right? Not just because, let's see, SLA is coming in. They have to give me a budget for a whole year, not for a part of the amount. It has to be prorated for a whole year, even though she's just starting it right now.
Yeah, you should be getting a 12-month budget based on the services that are approved right now.
Right now. So if they bump up the hours for everything, that budget needs to be adjust to 1 year, not prior last year's, because the services
absolutely
got increased.
Yeah, they look forward, not backward.
Okay.
The other thing I should say is people should be, I mean, Cindy, you came to our self-determination conference, so you should be getting at least like $200 for that. And there's a lot of other little smaller things that you could be.
Oh, they're saying the conference doesn't count.
That's not true.
Yeah, they told me the conference doesn't count, and the co-payments, because they do a lot of co-payments for my son for the therapies, and they told me that co-payment doesn't count either.
So what, okay, so please, you have so many things. So I'm going to be at your fair hearing because this is too many issues. So, wow.
Yeah, so no, nothing counts, only respite, because I was like, well, with the co-payments, it makes a big difference. But they told me, oh no, co-payments doesn't count. And other conference that I do over the year, I do a couple of those ones, they say they don't count either.
That's not true. That's not true. So let's, I know you're a fierce person, so let's make you one of the test cases.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go for a hearing for everything on him because I need to get that budget up.
Yeah.
And that's good that you told me, because I believe them when they told me co-payments and the conference doesn't count. So I wasn't even counting that.
Not true. Yeah, not true.
Thank you.
Now, co-payments, I actually don't know about. The conference, definitely. I definitely know that should be in your budget. But do any of the independent facilitators or anybody know about that co-pay? So you were getting co-payments for what? Behavior or what?
I get co-payments for all the therapies that, because I use my insurance for all the ABA, the speech, the OT that I get extra. So they pay all my co-payments, but I don't understand why it doesn't count if they're paying for that service, part of the service. Yeah. They're still paying for it. So that's one thing that I don't understand, because the money is coming from there, and that's every year. It's not something like, oh, he's going only for 1 month, you know? They've been doing it already for 3-4 years.
Yeah. So Sunny, do you know?
It depends which regional center you go to. And same thing with conferences.
See, we cannot have 21 different ways of implementing this. Okay. Yeah. And you know what? ALJs don't like 21 different ways either, by the way. So ALJ stands for Administrative Law Judge. Yeah, let's do it. Cindy, let's do it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, it's ridiculous. I see the name McNaughton. I'm not sure what the first name is. Has a hand up. You gonna mute yourself?
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's Jocelyn McNaughton.
Hi, Jocelyn.
Hi. My daughter was selected a while ago to be in self-determination, but she ended up having 2 major surgeries, so it kind of put us back. And then she turned 18, so we were going through a lot of legal paperwork and all. So now we're just fully focused and concentrating on this for last quite several months. Our problem is that the budgets that they were giving us were just for respite, 20 hours of respite a month. And a lot of different things she qualifies for now that she turned 18, they're not putting into the budget. So I'm not getting any kind of support for community integration or for employment supports. And I'm trying to figure out ways to get that funding. But really right now, she's not really set with much to do with anything. If I was going to pay anybody beyond $12 an hour, I'm not going to have really too much support or help with the type of budget that they're giving me. So we've just kind of been in a lot of talks with that. My problem too is that my coordinator's like, well, we're learning it together. I'm like, we're not learning
that's
it.
the big thing they say.
We're supposed to know it already. And then I keep getting, you know, I try to talk to the person in charge of the PIP program, and I noticed I finally did enough research to find out that that can't go into self-determination. So like I can't.
Right.
Also,
you still get, remember though, you still get that. If you want to be in the paid internship program, it's just outside of the self-determination. So you're still eligible.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to do this. I just found out though that there some way, I just found out from one of the employment agencies that kind of works with them, that an authorizer or something, someone real big that is in Orange County has like just fallen away or fallen out. So there might be some types of problems with that. I've been trying to get a hold of the person since August that runs the regional center employment supports. I've not been able to get any kind of response back. I've been waiting for my person to talk with him and always trying to talk to her, which is not that easy either because she doesn't respond back that well. She's on vacation this week, so next week.
Jocelyn, let me ask, I have a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
So is your daughter out, has she left school or is she still part of the school system?
Actually, no, she is, I held her back in kindergarten. So she's in her senior year and she's at a charter school, and the charter school is mainly based out of LA, but they don't really have a transition program per se, but I'm trying to create one with them because they're an awesome amount of group of people that are really on board with helping her this as most as possible. But they're like, when it comes to some employment supports, like being there with her, they don't believe, they said that there's really no way for them to do that right now. But it's kind of a weird situation because the person that's supporting her, and she has her an awesome one-on-one aide that knows everything about integration. Geneva's been fully integrated since kindergarten and beyond, and it's been a real struggle in Orange County to do that.
So wait, so let me just,
awesome person with her now. And I just want that person to be able to support her as well on the employment side.
Right. So let me just pop in here and just, so if you have, even if your child is 18, if they're still going to be part of the school system. So my son wasn't able to graduate. He wasn't able to get a diploma, but I still pulled him out of school at the age of 18 because he hated it. It was the smartest thing I ever did. So and then all of the services switched over to the regional center at that point. If you're still in the school system and you're happy with the school system, then the school system is the generic resource. So it is going to be a little bit more of a challenge to get employment supports, to get transition stuff, to get life skills without accessing it from the school. So and the fact that she's still K through 12, she's not in transition age, makes it even that much harder. Once you're in that transition age, if she's at a charter school that can't provide a lot of those services, then you could make the case, listen, the generic resource isn't even helping us here. But right now she's still in her senior year, so it's going to be a struggle. Unfortunately, regional centers in the traditional system there's just not a lot of services that they provide to children. It's a downright shame, but yeah, it is the truth. So
let me can I ask you something about this, and that is community supports for socialization, because there was never, she had ABA, but you have not been able to do ABA because the timing wasn't allowed, like the agency didn't have enough people or trained people, couldn't fulfill the contract, a myriad of reasons, but also any of the social skills classes and things really weren't for her. So I've kind of put that all into her PCP, that's all there. Have you ever heard of anyone be able to get extra support for that without them saying that the generic resource is going to the Medi-Cal and getting ABA through there?
Well,
And
it depends on the diagnosis. If it's
Okay.
autism, it's very, very difficult
Mhm.
to have the regional center pay for behavior. It's not impossible. It still happens, but there was a law passed a number of years ago which requires both private health insurance and Medi-Cal to pay for ABA. A lot of people cheered when that law was passed. I was one of the few people who opposed it because I didn't oppose it. I was disappointed in it because for people who are regional center clients, it actually, for many of us, made things much worse. So is your child to have autism?
No, she has 5P minus syndrome, and she was getting her behavioral paid through regional center until she was like one of the last ones to transition into it going over to the Medi-Cal.
And so is Medi-Cal willing to pay for it even though she doesn't have autism?
Yeah, but my problem is finding an agency that's has the availability of trained people and having it integrate with her schedule. She has a lot of different therapies and stuff, but it's just been a real problem to try to get that all arranged to where it works. Also, the problem with the social skills classes and things is that a lot of it is there's a lot of behaviors and things that are happening in there. So it's kind of hard to work on the social skills when you're inside, you're not in community. She's always been in community. She's fully integrated in different groups and stuff. And she kind of needs like a one-on-one aid in some of the groups. So it's kind of a different situation, but I've always really been pushing her out there because she enjoys people. She's, she just is very super social and everything. So appropriately social.
So I know you're not yet in the self-determination program. Have you hired a person-centered planner yet?
I've done the person-centered planning for her.
Why would you do that when you could have $2,500, up to $2,500 spent to hire an outside person who can not only help you do with the person-centered planning, but that can help identify services and supports, including generic resources like the insurance company, like your school district?
Yeah, well, I know there's generic resources and things. I mean, I've taken the training, I've done all that. It's that there doesn't seem to be there's so many generic resources that they'll just push me to because of her age and because of her situation, like you said. It's not like she's not over 20, she's not over 20, she's not 22. Right. There's a lot of other things that will change. Huh?
I really think you need to hire a person-centered planner.
Okay.
So I first of all, I should just be honest with you and say that I never believe that parents should do their child's person-centered plan. I'm not talking about money because I'm sure you didn't get paid to do it. I'm talking about you do not have enough emotional distance from your daughter to do her person-centered plan. Take that from me, who didn't do my own son's person-centered plan, even though I teach people how to do person-centered planning. I'm as an expert on this as you can have here in California, and yet I still hired someone else to do my son's PCP, who challenged my husband and me to think in a different way about what my son should be doing and really listen to him about what he wanted in his life. And
I agree. Yeah.
I honestly think that you need to step back. Here is, before you get into the self-determination program, your opportunity to think through things and not to just depend on the self-determination program. Person-centered planning is about what's possible in a person's life, not who pays for it, but what's possible in a person-centered life, in a person's life. And it might include things like that you never even thought about before, because you've done a plan with an outside person. There's a whole bunch of people here on this call who are IFs. You could also maybe find, what regional center are you?
In Orange County.
Orange County. So,
yeah, I see some of the people.
Yeah. So I really, honestly, I would start with having a person come in, identifying that some of the needs are not going to be met and paid for through the self-determination program. Right. And that maybe what needs to be done is you need to be hiring an advocate. to get your daughter these supports and services that the generic resources will pay for. By the way, do you know that regional centers are supposed to be helping you get these generic resources? They're not supposed to be denying you and then turning you away. They're supposed to be saying, sorry, we're not allowed to pay for it because of the way that we've been restricted. However, we're going to show up at your kid's IEP to demand the school district pay for it. We're going to call Medi-Cal and say, this is outrageous that they have been waiting for a behavioral agency for a year now and haven't gotten one. That is the regional center's job. It's something I'm increasingly and publicly demanding that the regional centers fulfill that responsibility. But because we know they're not going to be doing that for you right now, how great is it that you can hire a person-centered planner who can also help you with that for now? Because maybe what will come out of self-determination is just a small budget that you're using for things that generic resources will never pay for, like joining a gym or being, having a personal trainer or a dietitian or, just like unique, or taking an art class at the community college, whatever it is, that you find some small, cool things to do because you've been able to get the school district and this insurance company to actually fund the things that they're required to fund.
I'm in the process of all that right now. I think we're pretty much on the edges of getting it handled, through a lot of different departments. I mean, I kind of know a lot of the generic resources already. I've been doing this for a long time with her. She's got a pretty good life. It's just trying to transition all that life into the program is all. And you know what? She has been fully involved with so many different things and so many opportunities, and I just love her for that. And she lives a really pretty good life.
Right. I'm not saying she doesn't. What I'm saying is that don't put this all on you.
Oh yeah.
Moms, I know there may be some dads here, but we moms tend to put too much on ourselves. We really do. And we then it's like, we can do it. We're the warrior moms. We can make this happen. And then all of a sudden we just crash at a certain point because it's just too much. So here's a partner that you can hire that is not coming out of your daughter's budget, that the state says you have a right to have. And by the way, once self-determination goes statewide, I'm not convinced that $2,500 is going to still be there. So you want to grab that while you can.
Yep.
So I would do that. And remember, that person-centered planning person, if you've already got a plan and they believe that it's kind of like, a plan that your child is really supporting and everything, then maybe they're spending their time identifying these goods and services in the community that they will pay for.
Yep. I thank you. Thank you so much.
That's great. I'm excited. Keep in touch. Let us know how it goes.
Okay.
I know there's a lot going on in the chat, and so I try to focus on what people are saying, and I haven't been reading it. It's easier for me, honestly, if you do a hand raise. But what I'm going to do is kind of go back and just look at some of the comments right now to see if, okay. Susie is asking, is the fair hearing really fair? Elizabeth Gomez, is the fair hearing really fair? Oh, I'm mute.
Okay, well, what I can tell you is from what we've been experiencing is probably one of the most unfair processes that families have to go through. I don't know about everyone that's listening here, but we're going to like 2 days attending a hearing for one service, and sometimes even after you say and speak on every term, the reasons why you should have the service, whatever it is, you still get a denial. And sometimes we go very well prepared for the argument, but still there's nothing fair about that process.
Yeah.
Another thing that is really unfair is the fact that we don't have the supports or the people that we need. Like the regional center has an attorney, the parent does not have an attorney, but maybe just a few advocates helping. So it's, if you ask me, it's not a fair process.
Yeah. So saying that though, my goal of the meeting today is that everybody move into self-determination as soon as possible. And that you should move in and at the same time apply for fair hearing. And wouldn't it be amazing, Elizabeth, if like 500 people in the self-determination program file for fair hearing in the next month? I mean, think about it. DDS might actually pay attention to us at that point.
Judy, since you've been encouraging us to do this, I think this is what everybody is trying to do now, is just go through the process, go through the and see what happens, and then start reporting, because we've been through this process in the traditional system, but not in self-determination. So we have to start following the process and then reporting back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So here's what we're gonna do is like filing for maybe next week, we'll actually do a webinar that will walk you through what it means to file for fair hearing. It's super easy, by the way, nothing complicated. The actual hearing itself is much more complicated, where you have to have witnesses and witness list and evidence and all this crap. That is not what we're talking. We already did a webinar on that. Maybe we'll just do a share screen. We'll say, here's what you say, here's what you fill out. And let's get like 500 people to do it. Like, how else? I mean, this is a public meeting and we'll have the recording up. I'm sure DDS will not be watching this because they don't actually pay attention to us, but it's like, I don't know what else to do. I've tried negotiating. I see these emails that Sunny sends, these long emails that she sends to DDS, and she doesn't get what she needs. I see these meetings that they have in Spanish, the ICC has, they don't get. I see Tammy Polly appealing to DDS, not getting any answers. I see the regional centers who really want to do the right thing, asking DDS, and DDS doesn't give us an answer. So the only thing we can do to get them to pay attention is that's just my next idea. I don't know. If somebody has a better idea, let me know. I tried the legislature too, by the way. I tried to involve them, and they're just not going to get involved. They're just really not. Somebody was asked, Susie was also asking about how much a fair hearing costs.
Oh, Judy, I hate to cut you off, but Susie told me privately just before you started to answer that she needs to leave to try to get on her other laptop. So if you could just answer it after she comes back on.
Absolutely. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, we'll come back to that. Thanks, Ed. And it looks like she's trying to get in right now, but it's not working for her. Christina was saying, is there any regulation that states if a consumer is in the self-determination waiver that they cannot access this additional participant-directed services? Okay, so there's more questions there, but you cannot be in both self-determination and the traditional system at the same time.
Right.
That's the answer to that, Christina. So,
but if Judy, what I'm thinking is that the additional participant-directed services, they're not specifying which consumers can be part of it. So is it, I mean, there's nothing that specifies it's part of the traditional system. Does that make sense?
No, it is, because it's service codes that are part of the traditional system. So it's definitely the traditional system.
Okay. I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Because there are different service codes for SDP. Okay. So why does it even need to be part of the budget? So let me tell you there are some services that are outside of the self-determination program, and they include competitive integrated employment support and that paid internship program. And the reason why they're outside of it, meaning you can be in self-determination and still get the paid internship program, is because those employment programs are state funded alone. There was a law that was passed in the state of California to provide this paid internship program that is not matched by federal dollars. Everything that is paid for through the self-determination program has to be matched by federal dollars. So you can do both of those. So it's not really the traditional system, because the traditional system is through the DD waiver, the developmental disabilities waiver, which is, you cannot be in two waivers at once. So it's like, I try not to talk about waivers because they're so silly, but a waiver is, in case you don't know, is the waiver is the contract the funding contract that a state has with the federal government to receive matching funds for every dollar they spend. So for every dollar that a regional center spends on a person who is part of the DD waiver, it's matched by at least 50 cents and sometimes more than 50 cents to the dollar. Depending on if you're a foster child or other kinds of things. Okay, I'm just going to finish going through the chat here. Sally is saying, I'm the hearings queen. Where are you, Sally? Are you on screen? She is truly the hearings queen and have filed over 13 times. I love you. I love you, Sally. I would like to encourage
Hello.
I would like to encourage participants to file because I withdrew all except one once Regional Center gave us the services. Usually mediation or prior or soon afterwards is when the magic happens. Judy is right though, we do not get heard until we file. So yeah, give us your experience and knowledge, Sally.
Well, as soon as I get any sort of denial, I file. Even if I don't even get anything in writing, I just file. I just file. And I get a lot of respect. But the key is to just be strong. And the secret is, like many lawyers know, it usually doesn't go to hearing. So the fear is unfounded, really. Very few people go to hearing, actually. And as many times as I filed, I would get services for my kid. My kid had a lot of services. They didn't know what to do with me. They're like, "Go give her services because she's going to file for hearing." And that's how I did it. It's very easy. Just file, but you have to ask for stay put. This is important because if you do not ask for it, they will not. It's not automatic. Like you have it in school. In school, you have it automatic. With regional, you have to ask for it, or in the OAH. But yes, it's very easy. Easy to file, and then you just start negotiating. You negotiate high, and then they come in with 0, and then you negotiate high, and they come up a little bit, and then you keep it high all the time. You keep it high, and then you go into mediation. My experience, you guys, is that at mediation, the actual mediator will go to bat for parents. I have always been backed up by that judge. It's amazing. He will get you into a little room and tell you, okay, what do you got? And then he'll go to them, to the regional. He says, okay, what do you have? And then he'll try to convince you to back down. And you say, no, I'm not backing down. And then he'll try to convince them that you're not backing down, and back and forth. But he will tell them everything that you're not backing down. One time I brought in a big hunky friend of mine, and at one point I told him, okay, walk out, just walk out. And then I told the judge, hey, my guy's gonna go hire a lawyer right now, that's it. And he says, oh, just hold on for a moment. And he went to the regional. It's all about strategy, negotiating, but I got very good at it. And sure enough, I got a settlement.
Clearly, you need to be part of our webinar next week, Sally.
Okay, I'll be here.
That'd be great. Okay, I'm still looking.
Judy, I just wanted to let you know Susie has let me know she's back.
Yay, Susie. Okay, Susie, we were talking about your question, which was, hold on, I'm going to find it. It's fair, fair. It's really not. However, you just heard from Sally. We're going to spend more time on it next week, since that's my new latest passion, is that everybody file for fair hearing and go into the self-determination program. Like, we need you to go in. And you also asked Susie about how much it costs. Like, I'm not sure that costs have ever been determined clearly in just a regular fair hearing, because a lot of regional centers have full-time staff whose job it is to go to fair hearing against parents. Not every regional center does. Some regional centers have like they work part-time on that, and then the other half of the time they do something else at the regional center. But there is some expert at all 21 regional centers whose job it is to understand the Lanterman Act and to represent the regional center at fair hearings. So we're obviously at a disadvantage. So there hasn't been a cost. However, I can tell you this, that sometimes they actually use lawyers. So one of the things you can do, by the way, is you can figure out how much does this person get paid, and that's what the cost is at fair hearings, right? Because this person's entire, if it's their entire job and they get paid $100,000 a year, so it's minimum $100,000 that they're spending on fair hearings. And then I've been to fair hearings where there will be 6 staff members there for the entire day. So you can take what their salary is and figure out what their day is. So it's really costing just a fortune. Then of course, if you win and they file an appeal at Superior Court, they must have a lawyer at Superior Court. Superior Court can't be like a pretend lawyer like most regional centers have. You have to have a real lawyer who's a member of the bar. So we, by the way, if we're going to Superior Court, have to have a lawyer. But I've been involved in a case where it was over a $655 reimbursement for an expense that the parents put out that was in the daughter's IPP through the negligent, and the reason the parents had to put out the money is because of negligence of the regional center to not pay it. And they asked for a reimbursement and they lost at fair hearing and they took it to Superior Court. I got the family a pro bono lawyer to represent them at Superior Court, which Superior Court's not like a trial. It's just like written arguments, a written brief. And the regional center not only lost at Superior Court, but the judge found it so egregious that that he required the regional center to pay her attorney's fees, which were over $40,000. And we assumed that their regional center attorney fees were around the same. So over a $655 reimbursement, it cost them $80,000. That was North LA Regional Center, by the way.
And that's a bargaining chip, right? To be able to say, hey, this is the service I'm asking for. This is how much it's going to cost you to go to court.
Right. They don't care. It's not their money. It's not out of their pocket. They don't care. I then started doing some research after I was so appalled at that case and found a bunch of more cases, even to the tune of $250,000 or $400,000 in legal fees that they had to pay on the opposing side. So regional centers have no accountability on this part. I really want, I have asked for the amount of money that regional centers pay in attorney's fees and not gotten it, because regional centers are not, they're private nonprofits. They're not governmental agencies, so they're not subject to Public Records Act requests. Mm-hmm. So I've never been able to get that data. We would like to make regional centers subject to the Public Records Act request. We actually had legislation in for that last year that did not pass because shockingly the regional centers opposed it. But you know, these are the kinds of things. Transparency will only help us.
So my other question was having to do with what you said a little earlier, and I changed computers, so I lost the chat thread. But you said something about asking for a person-centered plan, even if you're not in self-determination yet, which you've said previously, and you've said that, yeah, they probably won't give it to you, but ask them anyway. And I did. I thought I'd be a little cheeky and do it. And I think that my 16 going on 17-year-old son needs a person-centered plan that's not done by his biased mother or by the biased person-centered thinking trained service coordinator. And I have gotten a denial notice and I'm going to go to fair hearing. Thank you, Sally, for that. But it's a $2,500 service. I think it's necessary for him because he needs his voice heard in his process. But so what's your suggestion?
So Susie, it's not a $2,500 service in the traditional system. So you're filing for fair hearing in getting a service through the traditional system because your son's not yet in the self-determination program, right?
Right.
So there is absolutely a service code in the traditional system for person-centered planning. It doesn't have a dollar amount established to it. And
is it 024?
It is not 024. That is a service
that's in self-determination.
self-determination.
What is the service code?
Does anybody know what? I know
They're saying they can't pay for it. They're saying we can't approve it. We can't do an exception because we don't have any mechanism to pay for it. And I work for a government agency, and even if you don't have a traditional way to pay for it, that's BS. Of course you have a way to pay for it.
Yeah. So the way you're going to win this is to stop talking about the self-determination program. So you can't say that you're anything about self-determination because your son's not in it.
No.
You're just asking for a person-centered plan because your son is in a transition stage and he needs it, and the regional center should pay for it, right? So there is a service code. I don't remember what it is. There's also a service code in the traditional, basically all service codes are on the DDS website, so you can comb through it.
Does anyone have the link in the chat?
Let me.
I have the link to the regulation that I could put in there.
Regulation for what? So it's not related to COVID and it's not related to self-determination. I just know my regional center doesn't approve it very often, but definitely has approved it for a handful of people. I know this for sure because I know
which one?
People who've had the PCPs, and they have nothing to do with the self-determination program. It's just these are people who are at a stage in their lives, some of them a little bit in crisis. They were usually adults, I have to say, and they were a bit in crisis, and they really needed to do some planning with them to get them out of this crisis.
And you're in which regional center?
At Westside Regional Center.
Westside.
But you have to really be able to make the case. So it was like, I can't remember, it's been like 5 or 6 years, but I remember it was a gentleman who had been living in a really bad situation, and the parents weren't around, and the regional center really felt that it was important for them to surround him with people that he trusts so that he can create a new future for himself, but that's person-centered. And so which is really different than just saying, I want to go in the self-determination program and I didn't get in. So it's really got to be, you got to make a compelling case of why it needs to happen now.
Which I did. I said he's 16, his voice needs to be heard. You know, I can't drive his goals. I shouldn't be driving his, his goals in his upcoming IPP. We really need to hear his voice. And it was denied.
Yeah, that may happen. And you may not win. Honestly, I don't know if you'll win.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just don't know. I'm trying to find the list of, I think it might be, because the DDS website's not an easy thing to navigate. Services, maybe it's in services. It's like if you click on the wrong thing, you're screwed. So early start, self-determination, community placement, support services, options for regional centers. What is that? Oh my God, I can't even click on the thing. It keeps going back to the beginning. Try to look through the DDS website.
It's provider survey service codes. That's what I have.
Provider survey service codes, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it had to do with the rate study. That's where I found them.
Yeah, I definitely do a little bit of searching for that. Work services, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I looked through DDS. I couldn't find the service codes. I did Google searches to try to find the service codes because they're basically saying we have no way to pay it. And I keep being told by you and other people that there's a service code to pay it. So what's the problem?
Right. Okay, so I'm just going to have one more comment from Miriam because we're ending a little bit early so that I can go play 2020 debate bingo, 6 p.m. with Kamala and the man who's scared of women. Go ahead.
Hi, first I want to say that these webinars are, I don't know if I've said that before, but it's the best resource on self-determination, honestly. And I'm late to the game, but I have been catching up with the recordings. So there were days I was watching you for 6 hours a day. My husband's sitting next to
Yay!
me.
Well,
and he's
no
like,
one wants to do that. Definitely not my husband.
Anyway, I have several questions relating to the budget and spending plan. And I know this is not about getting the most money, but this is a concern how to do this so you don't lose all your money by the end of the budget year. So first of all, in one of your webinars, you said that there is a way on each regional center website to find what kind of services are covered under the traditional system. So if you could tell me how I get there, how to find
North
it.
LA, right?
Yes.
I'm just looking it up. I have this really fancy little system now so that I don't pass out from staring at my laptop. So I have like all these screens going on. I'm so fancy, Connie, you would think I'm so fancy. Okay, consumers and families. Let's see, purchase of service policies. That's probably what it is. Yeah, so I'll put it in the chat.
Okay. My next question is, so my son's budget is pretty big because he had an AST assessment, they got him hours. But what happens if I don't use these hours for AST services?
Nothing.
Nothing?
There's no expectation.
Okay. And then I have some FSA questions, if that's okay. I'm a little concerned about how difficult the FSA payments will be. So I don't know if it's how difficult the payments will be. It sounds like, and I don't know if that's true for all the FSAs, but it sounds like that there will be no credit or debit card I can use.
Oh, real quick, are you talking about the FMS?
Oh, FMS, yeah. Sorry,
okay,
FMS,
okay.
yes.
So it depends on the FMS. So there's about 8 or 9 of them. And some of them are providing some kind of debit card, and some are purchasing. You said like let's say you have something to purchase through Amazon, you send them the link and they're supposed to purchase it for you. I can tell you, I have not heard anybody who is having a perfect relationship with their FMS, including me. And every FMS is struggling through this. We're all learning together, but it's true, honestly. That's why we had this 3-year phase in, because we were supposed to learn together. Unfortunately, DDS has screwed it all up. So I have to say that, people are having varied experiences with the different agencies, and you have a right to change your agency if you're not having a good experience with them.
Well, we haven't started yet, but I'm just thinking about that.
Here's what I would do is you need to interview the FMS agencies and to say, so I wouldn't say I want a debit card, because that's not what you're asking for. You want to get certain things purchased that you think the only way to get it is through a debit card. First of all, you can't have anyway, you need certain things purchased. That's the bottom line. It's not that you need a credit card or debit card.
No.
So here's an example. My son has a personal trainer that we had been paying for privately. When I say, don't think of him having a fancy personal trainer, guys. It's somebody who works specifically with people with autism. But he has a personal trainer who comes to our house 30 minutes a week, and we had it on our credit card. And so we just transferred them over to the FMS, and they send an invoice to the FMS, and the FMS transfers money direct deposit into their account. So there was no need for a credit card. So where a credit card is often needed is like a purchase. Like I remember, Howard, you needed some socks purchased, if I recall, some compression socks or something. And so that's something that's really reasonable to put in it because it's a health and safety issue. And so I know that there was some hiccups in that, but I believe Sonny, who's his IF, you sent the link over to the FMS, right? Yeah, and then they did it. So is there something in particular you're thinking about that needs
it's just
a credit card for?
It's just when I'm out and see something I can't even think about it right now, but let's say the service dog. We don't have a service dog. I'm thinking about getting a service dog.
Right,
What
no
if
credit
the
card
service
needed.
dog
Yeah.
needs emergency surgery on the weekend?
Yeah, no. What you'll have to do is call the FMS and move around funding, and then it'll get authorized. I mean, that's the way it was in the pilot. I'm not saying that it's working that smoothly in this system.
So there is no way to get reimbursed if I put out the money for anything?
No, you do
Okay.
not want to put out money, people. You do not want to do that.
Okay.
So one of the big things we faced in the system is in the new program is that if an emergency comes up, that first of all, you have to move things around because you can't, it's not like you have extra money put in for this emergency. So you have to move some things around. But if it creates a new service code, it then has to be sent to the regional center. And that's been where we've been a little bit butting heads, because in my feeling is that all you should be doing is informing your regional center and not asking permission from your regional center. But so Sunny, we only have about 2 minutes left, so let's end with this. Go ahead, Sunny.
Thank you.
I don't know if you're gonna like what I have to say, but it has been making changes to your spending plan in practice has been a lot more difficult for people than it is supposed to be. And I was just going over this in a training this morning with people, but adding a service code in some regional centers requires an amendment to the IPP. So like the service coordinator has to generate, it's ridiculous, but it takes time. But even moving funds, the problem is moving funds, even if you're moving $500 from one service to a different service, what happens is the regional center is giving your FMS in advance an authorization per service code of how much money is available. So even if you're doing something small, like moving $200 from one to another, some of the FMSs, most of them won't spend that extra $200 until they get from the regional center an updated POS or authorization, because they don't want to spend the money. They don't have documentation from the regional center that says the regional center will pay them back. So you should be able to just call and say, hey, pull $200 from this service because we have an unexpected expense in this service, and you should be able to do that according to the law and the way the program is supposed to work. But the FMSs currently won't do that for you because they don't have the backing in terms of documentation that they would need to be assured that the regional center will pay them back. And
Right.
so
that's something we have to change.
Yeah.
Because in the pilot, that's not what happened. In the pilot, as long as you weren't asking for more money in total in your budget, there was tons of flexibility to move things around. And that's not the intention of this. So we may need to correct that in legislation. That's something we need to work on. All right, everybody, it's 4 minutes. Raise your hand if you're gonna watch the debate. I bet, wait, Lisa, oh, yay, Talene, yay, Elizabeth. Okay, a few of you are actually watching it.
Judy?
Are you gonna watch it, Howard?
I did get my shots. I did get my shot, the ones
Excellent.
and they really helped me to walk.
I'm
And Judy,
so
I
glad.
apologize for what I said earlier.
I hooray for self-determination. That's what happened. All right, everybody, take care. Don't forget to vote. Don't forget to fill out your census. It's due October 31st, about an extra month. And be safe out there. Bye all. Take care.
Bye.